Okay, welcome to this Whiteline Academy session called Airflow Implementation in the Cloud with GKE. We're going to use some Kubernetes cluster on the cloud. So let's begin. So let's talk before everything about our agenda. So we're already covering in previous sessions like what we're going to use for the managed service in the cloud with Google Composer and AWS MWAA. So right now we're going to talk for this topic about the difference between using this method and the methods that we saw before. And also we're going to cover the requirements for this session, the commands and demo that we're going to run. And we're going to talk a little bit for the troubleshootings that can happen while we are just deploying this. And of course, our conclusions. So let's go with the difference with Google Composer and MWA against this method. So maybe you're going to have some version dependency in your project, or maybe even the Airflow version, the core of Airflow, that are not going to be available in some of these frameworks like Google Composer or MWA. So maybe you want just to use your own version of this one, or you just want to be in charge of the dependency. So this is like one of the things that you're going to use this environment. Also for escalation, maybe you do not need to run this as scale up or scale down in an automated way. So this is another option just to do it. You don't have to use this framework just to help you out with that. And of course, management, that is our third point. If you do not need to do some management and it's pretty easy, gonna be just like static. So this is a good approach for that. You're gonna be in charge of everything, creating nodes, creating all the instances, and the cost. The point number 4 is going to be the cost, because you're going to save some money in here, because even if that you are just setting up a Kubernetes cluster, you're going to save the money for the environment fee and also for the web proxy and the authentication layer. So you're going to save a little dollars in your billing. And one of the most important part is like the access and exposure, because you are gonna be able to access your Airflow instance, but you have just to run a tunnel just to from your local machine to your cluster environment. You're gonna be able to use the login integrated for Airflow, but you don't have the security layer about using your Gmail account. Or also for the exposure, as I already mentioned, you don't have this web proxy that's gonna enable you the public URL so you can share it with your team and other stuff. So this is like more private or more personal way to do it. And if you want just to put it in the public or the internet, you have to do some extra steps. And this means more configuration and of course more management of your cluster. So let's go with the requirements. For this session, we're gonna need this repo available, that it's just to clone this repository in here that I'm sharing with you. These are some Terraform templates that we already created for you. In this session, we're gonna be covering the G Cloud version. So that leads us to the point number 2, that we're going to require the G Cloud SDK already installed in our computer. We're going to also need our account already configured in our Google Cloud. Those are fast steps that you can just do. And also, we're going to need Helm in the third version, and of course, Terraform already installed. Those are one-line commands that you can use just to install the tool, so it's not big deal, it's not rocket science. Okay, so after just cloning the template and locating us in our folder, what we're gonna just do is just copy and rename the example file for the variables that we have in our repo, and we're gonna just edit it. So we're gonna just run first our cp command. So that's gonna be the result is gonna be just a new file that we can just edit. In this case, we're gonna use nano as file editor. So you can just run nano terraform tvars, and then you will be able just to edit this file. So right now, what we only need to do is just edit the first line, the project underscore ID, and put the project ID that we already have in our Google account. The region and location, we can just leave it like that. We only have for this GKE, we have 2 nodes. It's the N1 standard one, which is like the smallest instance for this machine. And we have the Cloud SQL variables. In this case, we're going to use the instance name data bootcamp 1. And we just left like everything like that. For the reference, you will be able just to change the space, the tier of these SQL instances, or even also the username, password, etc. Right? So for a matter of this one, we're gonna just leave it like that and edit the first line that is gonna be our project ID. And the region and location, if it's different than the one that are listed in here, and then we're good to go. Okay, so the next step is just we have to initializing our Terraform. So we're gonna just running the command Terraform init, and it's gonna just check the models that we have in our repo and install the providers that we need for this task. That is gonna be in this case, just the provider is going to be HashiCorp Google, because we're going to just be interactive with Google Cloud. This is pretty fast. After running this one, we're going to be good to go just to apply the changes that we have for our cluster. So we have just to run Terraform apply var file, and it just specified the Terraform tvars files, which is the file that we just edit before. And one important thing is that it's gonna list all the changes that is gonna be made in our project, and we have just to confirm that we want just to apply those changes with the word yes. This is important because the yes word is the only word that will be accepted as approval and agreement to apply these changes. After running that, it's gonna just showing it's gonna show us what is going on in under the hood. You have to be patient. It's gonna take like 10 minutes, 15 minutes tops, just because it's creating everything that we had in our template, everything that we need. That it's our VPC, our SQL instances, our cluster, and configuring everything as we require. So after those 15 minutes, we have just to set the context. What we're doing here is just putting the variables that we just had before, like the Kubernetes cluster name and the region that we use for this one. We're gonna pass the context to our kubectl, our kubeconfig, so we will be able just to interact between our cluster and using our terminal. So after that, we have just to create our namespace. That is like the little part where we're gonna just interact and work with the Airflow and so on. So we have to run this kubectl create namespace Airflow. What we're doing is just creating the new namespace, and we put it the name is Airflow. And after getting this success message, we can just add the chart, which is just adding this Airflow URL where it's gonna get it from, where is this gonna get it from to the repository. So we will be able just to install it. So we just run helm repo add. In this case, the name is gonna be Apache Airflow, and the URL is gonna be https airflow.apache.org. And after doing that, we will be able just to install Airflow. Just to accomplish this, we're gonna use run helm install airflow apache-airflow dash slash airflow dash namespace airflow. So we're gonna install the Airflow instance in our namespace with the same name. After running the install, it's gonna take like 2 or 3 minutes. You can see that we're gonna get some instructions and a success message for the installation. So let's do a little verification of our installation. So we're gonna run our kubectl get pods -n airflow, and it's going to retrieve the information of all the pods that we have running in our cluster. So you can see we have like the Flower just to monitor everything that we need, our PostgreSQL instance, that is the database, our Redis, the scheduler, the statistics, web servers, and worker. So everything is just running as expected. We have 2 schedulers and 2 workers. You can see it in the second column that is called ready, and for how long those pods are being running in our cluster. So at this point we already have everything running, but how can we interact with this Airflow instance? So to just accessing your new instance, you have just to run kubectl with a port forwarding for the service Airflow web server, and the port is going to be 8080 in our local instance, also 8080 of the namespace Airflow. What we are doing is just creating a port forwarding. So every time that we hit in our local machine the port 8080, we're going to be accessing the Airflow web server in the cluster, also in the port 8080. As you can see in the screenshot that I'm adding here, that is already forwarding from the local port 8080 to the remote port that is 8080, and we're going to be good to access to the instance. So the next step is going to open our web browser and go to localhost 8080. And as you can see, we have our Airflow instance running, and that's it. We are going to be able just to interact with this instance. There's going to be a login page, and we have to use the same username and password that we set in our variable file. In this case, it's going to be admin and admin. Also, you feel free just to edit that configuration, and then you can just work as you normally do with Airflow. So that's how things are done right now with this one. So let's talk a little bit about some troubleshooting. So maybe when you just run this apply of the Terraform template, you're gonna maybe get some errors like invalid grant. So this is a Google Cloud error. That means that the token is not set it properly, or you need more permissions. So for this, you only have to run this command, gcloud auth application default login. It's going to pop up a web browser where you have to choose the email that you're using. The same for the project. Use your password if it's not logged already, and we're going to be good to go. And other error that could be present for you is going to be like the root resource was present but now absent. This is a Google provider error that is present in some versions of the Google provider. So to do that fix is pretty easy. You only have to do some nanoprovider.tf and add these 7 lines at the top of the file. You only have to put the Terraform required provider Google and specify to use the version 3.54.0. This version, it had no errors for that. I don't know why it's not fixing the new ones. Maybe in the newer it's gonna be fixed. I'm not pretty sure about one, but that's how you avoid this error. After just doing the modification, you have just to initiate again your Terraform just to download this specific version, because we already have one already installed. We have to run Terraform init -- upgrade. So the new version is going to be installed, even that it's you're downgrading this version. And after doing the downgrade, you will be able just to apply again the file. That's going to be Terraform apply --bar-file equals Terraform tbars, and the script is gonna finish successfully. And also we have another last but not least error that maybe you're gonna get some error while creating the Kubernetes cluster, that is like the consumer and some specific number should enable service on the container googleapis.com before generating a service account. This means that you're trying just to create a cluster, Kubernetes cluster, but you don't have this service enabled. So the easiest way just to fix this is just run this command, gcloud service enable container.googleapis.com, and then you are enabling the Kubernetes cluster. The other way to do it is open your web console interface, going to Kubernetes and click on the enable button. And with that, you're going to be just good to go. And again, just run the apply command for the Terraform scripts. So let's talk about our conclusion. As you can see, this is an easy development. This is for easy development. You're going to be able just to run your Airflow instances and everything in like more than 15 minutes, and you're going to be good to go. It's fast and it's really easy when you already have template, and it's also easy just to handle that information. For the configuration, as you can see, some configuration required just to edit the template files. And if you want just to go and so do some modifications, you have to modify those files and then run the apply again for the Terraform. So you will need some configuration in the future or maybe at the beginning. So this is like a downside for this method. And of course, we have like the main point in here that is time against cost. Maybe you're gonna just saving some billing in here because you are not using the environment of Google Composer. So that means even that you are using the same technology, you're not using the environment fee. You are not using the web proxy because it's not exposed to the internet in the same way. And also for the security, the authentication method is in the integrated one, the build one, and not using Gmail accounts. So you're gonna save for those services are not gonna be billed to you. So you're gonna save some cost, but that's gonna give you that a downside about that you will need more time if you need to scale up or scale down your cluster. And also if you need just to add more users or change the exposure of about your cluster to the world and that kind of stuff. So it's gonna give you cost saving, but it's gonna cost you time. So that's like the things that you have to take into consideration depending of the scenario that you are right now for developing your cluster for Airflow. So I have nothing else to add, but thank you for your time. You already know me. I'm Rodrigo Chaparro. I'm a data engineer here at Whiteline. So feel free just to reach me out if you have some questions, comments, even if those are not related to Airflow on the cloud or with GKE. So we're gonna be glad to help. So see you the next time and happy coding.